I was compelled to work with Laurie-Ann. We had a 90-minute session where I got to pick an expert's brain about what to do and how to do things, from how to have an intro to your speaker tab to on your website to about how to find people to speak to and really brainstorming things like that. So overall, it has really lit a fire underneath me to be able to go out there and speak and find things to help people.
Welcome to Be in Demand, and this is the Storytelling Summer Series. So if you are a coach, a consultant, or a service provider who has been wondering, how do I get visible and seen by my ideal clients? Well, this is the podcast that's going to help you get seen and heard and referred by your ideal clients. Stories are 13 times more memorable than any fact or figure you can ever share with an audience. So why aren't speakers, coaches, you telling more stories? So far in this series, we've talked about why to be telling stories and what parts of the brain that a story actually lights up and impacts. And telling a story can literally be a full body experience for the people who are listening to you. I want you to understand that telling more stories can say what you don't need to say. In other words, instead of using a stat or some sort of a figure or some sort of a graph on a slide, you can basically be telling a story. And a well-crafted story will take you so far. So we've talked about the why. In episode 332, we talked about sharing your authority with a story, and also how it can be oh so conversational. And this is part of the in-demand signature speech, the authority section of your speech. And also in that episode I shared with you, I touched on how stories can really handle the objections without you having to handle an objection. The story that I told about Kim, she was a busy mom with twins. And although I did kind of leave that fact out, but when I do tell the story on stage, I do reinforce that, because there are people in the audience who are thinking, yeah, but I'm very busy. I've got kids. I'm a mom. I'm not that kind of a business owner. So the story with Kim helps them see themselves in the story. It's like, oh, Laurie-Ann works with busy moms, so that it helps people overcome objections. Hopefully you listened to the Speaker Circle, episode 333. And if you did the exercise that I ran the audience through, hopefully it jogged your memory and you came up with more stories that you probably completely forgot about. And I have to admit, one of the attendees to that who told the story about wanting to have some sort of a trailer and drive around the country and see different parts, but her biggest fear was that the trailer would fall off. And if you could see me, I was laughing. I think I put myself on mute because I thought it was so funny that her biggest fear, I mean, she literally manifested it. And just the way that she was telling it, and it wasn't even a crafted story, but she's just sharing this. And I was like, you have to tell this story on stage, because we have all, and everybody shook their heads as I was saying this, we've all been driving down the highway and seen a trailer in the breakdown lane left there. It's like, there's such a story there. Like, why is that trailer there? What happened? Why would it be there all by itself without the rest of the vehicle that was towing it? So I hope that you got some of your own stories by listening to that. And if you haven't, like, definitely go back and do the exercise with me as I'm running the whole group through that training. And if you would like to join the next Speaker Circle, this is a mini training that I host every single month. I want to encourage you, like, the link is down below. It is speakandstandout.com/community. And next month's Speaker Circle is going to be about writing a book, because all of August is going to be about writing a book, because having a book is a fabulous stage. Remember, speaking needs to be redefined, and so do stages. So let's talk about how to tell a better story. And I want to share with you a couple of the common mistakes that I see. First common mistake is I will say to people, tell the story as if you were telling your best friend. And sometimes that works, but other times it doesn't. Because one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making when telling a good story is they do a play by play. I woke up. I realized it was my anniversary. I decided to go to the grocery store and get the ingredients to make my husband's favorite dessert for dinner that night. That's a play by play, and that's boring. You literally want to drop your audience in the middle of the story. We don't have to take them from the very beginning, when you woke up that day, what you were thinking. You have to think to yourself, is this line important for this story? Is this line really needed for the audience to get the most out of this story? So that is one of the first problems that I see so many people making when they are crafting stories. And the second mistake that I see a lot is they give away the punchline. This is what I call it, at least. That first line, they're giving away the ending. And you don't want to do that. We want to keep our audience engaged in our story. Let me give you an example of giving it all away in the beginning, like giving the punchline before it's time. The day I got let go from my favorite contract, I got asked to go into the boss's office. Well, I already know that you left, that you got let go for whatever, like it doesn't even matter what the reason is, but I already know that you got let go. Versus I was having one of the best days. I decided to get off the train one station before just to enjoy the sunshine before I got to work. And all of these new ideas were coming to mind on how I was going to add value to the project that I was already delivering to this particular client, who'd become one of my favorite clients. And I stepped off the elevator and saw Mary. And Mary was like holding a bunch of papers and she says, "Hey, John wants to see you in the office first thing. I'll talk to you later." When you start to tell a story that way, and that's just totally an impromptu story. When you start to tell a story that way, it's like we don't know what's about to happen. All we know is that the main character feels really good, has some new ideas on how to change the project. We have no idea that when she walks into John's office that she's going to be let go. They're going to bring the contract to an end because I didn't give it away. I didn't give the punchline. So that's one of the biggest things that I want to share with you. But how do you tell a story? Well, you're going to learn more about how to tell a really good story in next Monday, 3:36, with my friend Adam Olin. He is going to come on and he runs a marketing and branding company. He came into In-Demand Signature Speech and did a masterclass for all of my clients and any alumni to In-Demand Signature Speech because he just has such a way with telling stories. He helped me change one of my stories that I didn't think was a great story, or I just didn't know how to tell it, but also that somebody told me it wasn't a great story. And Adam completely disagreed, and we revamped this story into something so beautiful that I had to bring him onto the podcast and also inside to In-Demand Signature Speech. So if you do join In-Demand Signature Speech, you will get an opportunity to watch that masterclass with Adam. And before we go on about how to craft a story, because I'm going to share with you one of the most important things about storytelling with speaking. There are so many people out there that are teaching storytelling. And there are so many different ways that they will be teaching you how to craft a story. So what I'm trying to say is there's no right and wrong. There's ways that I would say, like, please don't do this, like, don't give away the punchline, don't do a play-by-play, like, that's not good storytelling. But one of the things that you'll hear Adam talk about, the Joseph Campbell hero's journey, he's like, it doesn't always apply. You can't always use that story format for every story. So that was just like a breath of fresh air. Thank you very much, because I've even had clients say to me, like, I just can't make my story fit Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. And I know that I've had my own troubles with it also. So, crafting a really good story, if you can add some humor to it, add some humor to it. Even if you have a serious topic, adding humor into your speech, into a story, is just a surprise. That's what humor is. It's like I'm walking down the street with my brain, and my brain thinks we're going to take a right hand turn, but instead we take a left hand turn. The thing with our brains, it's always trying to predict the next word, the next step, what's happening next. That's why when it's a surprise, we're taking this abrupt left hand turn. That's where humor comes in. The brain wasn't expecting that. So if you can get some humor into this, add some humor into your story. When telling a story in your speech, you tell the story. And this is how you can use the same story again and again and again with different audiences for different reasons that you've been hired. What does this mean? What is the lesson that you want this audience to walk away with? So step one is you're telling the story, but then you're telling them like what this means, what they should take away from this, what you see from this. You're telling a story using some research that has been recently come out about your particular area of expertise. You want to share with them what your thought leadership is. Here's the lesson. Here's what I see. Here's what I want you to understand. And then step three is, what do you want the audience to do next? What's the action step? And here's the thing about your action steps. You don't have to tell, or I should say, please don't tell your audience what to do. Think about the last time you were told what to do. If anything, it makes the audience get a little defensive, and I'm not going to do that because because deep down inside, none of us like to be told what to do. But what if you asked them a question? What if you gave them something to ponder? What if you asked them, so what's the next step you want to take? But the important thing that I really want you to walk away with is you have got to draw a line from your story to the point, to the action step. The question, what is it that you want the audience to do next? And asking them in a question so that it becomes their idea and then they take that step. And it was inspired by you and your story. So in other words, I want you to understand that every story has a job. It's either connecting you to the audience, it's building credibility, it is helping you overcome an objection that the audience might be thinking or feeling. It is converting your audience. And the people that you convert, whether it's to sign up for your lead magnet, whatever your opt-in is, or it's to get on a sales call with you. After your audience hears you speak, the people who book and get on a sales call with you are 99% are likely that they're going to sign up with you because there is something so magical about speaking. And especially when you do it in the form of the in-demand signature speech, you're grabbing their attention, you're sharing your authority, you're giving really good value so that the audience walks away with something. You're teaching them something. You're showcasing your expertise. You're telling great stories that entertain the audience, that help them remember you, that connect with you. Start making a list of your stories. Have a story bank of different ideas. If you want to get in the habit of finding stories routinely, pull out your phone and at the end of the day, what happened today? Come up with at least one story, something that later on you can use. You can try to craft it into a story, but you're going to need something that's going to jog your memory. So what happened today? What happened last weekend? Start making your own story bank. What's the lesson that can come from this? And I would also go listen to June's speaker circle, where I actually shared with people how to take your stories and put them through AI to find a different perspective and different lessons so that you can be using more stories easier in your social media content, in your speeches. in your connection calls with others. Never underestimate the power of stories. Speaking is the fastest way to grow your business, and storytelling is the fastest way to connect to their hearts, their minds, and their souls. And before you go, I've got one last thing for you, and this one's a little personal. If you've been listening and thinking, I know speaking could grow my business, but I'm not sure where to start, or maybe you're wondering, where am I leaving opportunity on the table? Let's talk. Book a speaker success call. During this call, we will look at your current visibility strategy, your offers, and I will help you pinpoint exactly where speaking could bring in more clients, credibility, and momentum. I'll also share with you how we could work together, if it makes sense, to help you speed things up and start seeing results a whole lot faster. If you're ready to stop guessing and start standing out, the link is down below to book a speaker success call. Don't let another week go by without taking the stage because your clients are waiting. Until next week, be in demand.